In this video, we're going over the 5 best heroes to climb to Diamond instantly. If you've been struggling through the majority of the metal ranks in Valorant, then this is the perfect video for you, because these characters have everything you need to climb to Diamond as quickly and easily as possible. But the SkillCapped private coaching has been helping more people than ever before, and our website is stacked to the brim with in-depth guides over every single agent in the game. So if you really want to dominate your games, climb very quickly, and improve at a dramatic rate, then go check it out right now in the links down below. Now, before we jump into it, I want to talk about 2 honorable mentions on opposite ends of the spectrum. Number 1 I'm going to talk about is Brimstone. And Brim is that foundation that every team needs. In most ranks, you're unlikely to get a consistent controller player, and just having that consistency come from you automatically brings you a certain amount of percentage points that you're going to get just by playing Brim. But in addition to that, and I think this is super important, Brim lets you learn the game through a very static and stationary playstyle that's based around fundamentals. You're not going for flashy plays. You're not going for some crazy 1v5 clutches all the time. You're playing very disciplined, playing post plants very disciplined with your molly, with your ultimate. You're learning the game, how to play it in the proper way, denying line of sight, taking objectives. And a huge percentage of the time, you are going to be the last one alive on your team, meaning that you will have a huge clutch potential and huge agency over how rounds end out. You're going to get in more 1v1 situations than on most other characters. Oftentimes, if you can win 1v2 clutches after you have that bomb down, you can have huge impact over your games. And I do think that Brim is not the flashiest pick in the world to climb to Diamond, but I do think he's a very reliable and consistent one. But the other honorable mention is on the opposite end of the spectrum, and it's Reyna. Oftentimes, people say Reyna is all aim, no brain, and yeah, that's about right. But honestly, Reyna does teach you a lot about the mechanics of the game. Crosshair placement, crosshair discipline, learning how to react and use your abilities in ways to reposition you in the mid fight. You're going to get into a lot of 1v1 gunfights, a lot of clutch battles, and I do think that if you develop the aim skill around Reyna, you can climb to Diamond the easiest out of most characters in the game. Now, the problem comes after, where you have to apply your overall game sense and game knowledge to playing and learning the game, because I don't necessarily think that Reyna builds the best habits. If you only play Reyna, you learn how to play the game in a very specific way, but it doesn't always transfer to other characters. So if you do want to climb with Reyna, you do want to be a Reyna main, I would highly suggest sometimes mixing it up and playing other characters. Make sure that you don't become a Reyna one-trick or someone that only knows how to play the game as a Reyna player, because while it's going to be easy to stomp when gunplay and winning aim duels is all that matters to climb, as you get against better and better players, that's just simply not going to cut it. And I do think that it can become a crutch just as easy as it was a carry if you just only learn how to play Reyna, even though I do think if you learn the aim and you get good at aiming, it's the easiest way to get to Diamond. Now, entering into our top 5 list, number 5, we do got to talk about Raze. And yes, Raze can be pretty hard to master, but I don't think you need to master Raze in order to get you to Diamond, mainly because Raze just has a really powerful suite of abilities. Her grenade is really strong. Her boombot is very reliable sources of information and allows you to take sight easier. And while blast packs can take a bit to fully master, you can still get a lot of value out of blast pack simply denying LOS from enemies and running away from certain abilities and ultimates. I do think that all in all, Raze is a character that can scale directly with how good you get at her, which makes her a really great character to not only dominate the lower ranks of play, but as you get better with her and learn more and more and get better at the movement, get better at the gunplay, Raze will become good with you and is one of the best characters even in the highest ranks of play. This makes Raze kind of a perfect character to truly dig into and become your true main, climbing you all the way to Diamond and even beyond that. But I do think that there is a bit of growing pains with Raze. Definitely when you're first picking her up, you're going to waste a lot of abilities, you're going to make a lot of mistakes, but if you can get past that initial hump, I do think that Raze is a main that can set you up for your rest of your career in Valorant. Now, next up, we do got to talk about number 4. Fade just plays really well into a lack of discipline. If enemies are holding a corner, pushing up aggressively, Fade Dog is amazing. It's super reliable and consistent at punishing enemies that just want to mix up and hold angles and be aggressive. All that random aggressivity or holding a really tight angle and just spraying it works out that you see a lot in the low ranks of play get super punished by Fade. And I think that because because you get to punish these players all the time, Fade is going to get you a ton of free value. And you see this all the time with your teammates or even yourself, where you're playing in an angle and you're just hoping and praying that they don't use utility to clear you out. But Fade, if you're just someone that's reliable, consistent, you don't just walk up and try to take free gunfights. Oftentimes you're trying to use your utility to clear corners, make sure that you don't go into any dry encounters. I think that you're going to get a lot of value, shut down a lot of players, and you're going to climb fairly easily. Now, it does take a little bit of growing pains at the start when you're first learning Fade to make sure that you're using your abilities in the middle of combat properly. You're not dying in the middle of an ability cast. And there is some intricacy in trying to flow all these things together, because most of the time when you start, you're going to pop out of an ability or something like that and then just die right away. So it is going to take a bit of learning, but I do think that once you get the groundwork in on Fade, you're going to have a really good time. You're going to climb a lot and make a lot of opponents look really, really silly because they're just there getting completely countered by you. And I think she's a really, really solid pick to climb. Next off, number 3, we do got to talk about Omen. And Omen is one of the best characters to hard carry with, similar to Raze, really scales very, very well with you from the low rank to the high rank. Omen's amazing because not only can he take matters into his own hands, but he can fulfill the controller job. And I do think that one of the most powerful things that you could possibly do underneath the diamond rank is lurking, smoking for your team, and then cutting off a lurk rotation. It's super simple, but the lower rank you're in, the less people actually play around someone just waiting in a lurk area to deny a rotation. Most of the time, this is what happens. Your team set up in a point, let's say it's Ascent A, you smoke for them mid, and you just wait and you listen, right? You smoke, you wait, you lurked up, you're in a proactive place, and you're just kind of waiting. And once your team starts rushing, most of the time, people are just gonna rotate really fast. Like, they don't deny sound, they don't clear that many things, and you're just gonna get a free kill, and then you're gonna get to go flank or go regroup back with the team. I would err on the side of just playing more disciplined. Go back with your team, go back to the side of the map that you already have control over. Don't necessarily go fish for more, because that's an easy way to get traded out. Once you do this once or twice, all of a sudden now the enemy team are going to rotate way slower because they're afraid of you, and then you just play with your team, go in, paranoia your team in, and then all of a sudden you're getting a lot of value because the opponents are super afraid of this one play that you did, and you can just kind of mix it up and add it in. Omen gets to do that and win games for free just based off the back of that. And I know it's not going to work every single time in every single rank, but it's very strong and reliable value that only really Omen can do to that same level. And I do think that Omen takes a bit of time to get used to the timing and get used to helping your team and doing all this other extra stuff, but really it's worth the effort, man. It's really, really worth the effort. You're going to get really good at the game. You're going to understand how to not only be proactive, not only how to clutch up, but also how to use your abilities in the middle of fighting and use your abilities to help your team in the middle of a different play. It all kind of links really well together, and I think that Omen's one of the best characters to climb to Diamond and really to Immortal and beyond. Now, number 2, this is a character that we know has actually really high win rates across the board due to Riot themselves telling us, and it's Phoenix. Phoenix is one of the best and highest win rate characters in ranked, and when you look at his kit, it makes a lot of sense because while he doesn't see a lot of pro play, in ranked play he can do a little bit of everything. You can flash yourself in, wall a certain line of sight and enter onto a site, clear out a corner with your molly. There's a lot of things that you can do on Phoenix to just force yourself onto a point or an objective. You have extra things that can help you get kills, and honestly, the lower in rank you go, people are not turning from Phoenix flashes very easily. Yes, when you get to, highest Ascended, Immortal lobbies, they are always turning on this thing unless you're really, really surprising with it. But the lower in rank you go, the more free flashes and free value you're going to get just by flashing a corner someone's in, swinging it, and killing somebody. It's pretty simple stuff, but it really does work, and you get a lot of value that way. More than anything on Phoenix, I think it's important that when you're playing in a non-coordinated environment where you can't trust your team to do their jobs, you can't trust your initiator to get you into sight, you can't trust your smoker to smoke properly or correctly, you can't trust your other duelist to dash onto site or create any space. As Phoenix, you're like, fine, I'll do it myself, and you go and do it yourself. You can do all of it, but I would really, really make sure that you are not using your abilities to just heal yourself. I see this way too often when I see lower ranked players. They freaking molly themselves and they use a wall on themselves and they want to go up slightly in health. I promise you that the 99% of the time, it's way better to use those abilities to put yourself in a better position to win a fight, get a plant down, isolate a 1v1. This type of stuff is worth way more than that little bit of health almost ever is. Being able to not clear a corner because you used a molly in that corner as opposed to getting a little bit of health is just way better because because clearing that quarter or not means that potentially putting your back to the enemy or making opponent swing right out into you and getting a free kill. It's huge value. So that's what I would really suggest on this character if you want to get the most value on him. And I do think that this character is one of the best, if not the best, solo carry agents in the entire game for ranked. Now, this one is not that flashy, but I do think that she's probably the easiest way to get to Diamond, and it's Killjoy. Killjoy does a lot of things in most ranks of play. Killjoy denies opponents from pushing your site because the turret value plus the mine value is too much to overcome, and for some teams, they don't want to deal with it at all. They're either going to run into you and give you a lot of free value and kills because you're going to set up a denial plan with your turret and your mollies, get some kills, rack up some damage, or they're going to avoid you the entire game, in which case you can have your team or your duo or whatever just hard stack the other site, and that just puts them at a disadvantage when they're rushing the other site that you're not on. Now, I do understand that sometimes you're going to be solo holding a site, and then out of nowhere the enemy team rushes your team site and they still lose, right? That's a frustrating time, and this character isn't the best at retaking. I understand that, but you do got to understand that the vast majority of the time that your team is hard stacking a site, in most games you will win those games for free. The enemy team will just have failed rush after failed rush. And similar to what I talked about with Brim, you do put yourself oftentimes in like a 1v1 gunfight where if you re-grab your turret, you use your abilities to try to retake as best you can, and you're disciplined and smart about how you're fighting that final gunfight, you're gonna actually give yourself a good chance at clutching up. And all in all, Killjoy provides a huge amount of intrinsic value that you don't have to work for, value that's built into the character that automatically puts you to a certain level, and through that you can find ways to stack your own value on top of that to push you through the final ranks and eventually to the diamond rank and beyond. But these are my top 5 plus 2 honorable mention characters that I think are the easiest and best to climb to the diamond rank. But definitely let me know if you think I missed any in the comments down below. And while you're there, check out the SkillCapped website for everything that you could possibly need with in-depth guides, tips and tricks, and VOD reviews breaking down how to play these characters and how to position and make plays. Definitely check it out right now in the links down below.